Hi, I'm Shulin, and welcome to After the Bar. This podcast brings you stories from some of the most accomplished lawyers, former lawyers, and others in the legal industry from around the world. As a former lawyer myself, I've spoken with thousands of lawyers over the years as a legal recruiter, and I'm starting this series of interviews to give all of us a glimpse into their world. After the Bar aims to inspire, encourage, and perhaps even nudge fellow lawyers out from a rut. To receive updates on new episodes, just search Shulin Lee on LinkedIn and follow me. Today's episode is with a top criminal lawyer, Shashi Nathan. Today we'll get to hear more from him about what drives him, get him to share some interesting stories from his career, and how he's become the top criminal lawyer he is today. I've known Shashi for a number of years now, and he's one of the most prolific criminal lawyers in Singapore. He has a career that spans across more than 30 years. He's now the Asia Pacific head of disputes with Withers Kata Wong. His cases involve offences of murder, drug trafficking, and kidnapping. Shashi is listed as a lead counsel under the Supreme Court's list of assigned counsel for capital cases, and he has defended numerous clients charged for capital offences. He's easily one of the most sought-after defence lawyers in Singapore. Thank you, Shashi, for
Thank you, Shulin.
taking the time to be here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. And obviously, our listeners have many questions, but we're going to start from the beginning of your career, of your journey, actually. So, back in law school, did you always think that you were going to be a specialist in criminal law? Like, did you gravitate towards it? Or was it something you slowly evolved into specializing in?
To be honest, and I think some people who know me would already know this, before I went to law school, before I even studied law, I never thought I was going to be a criminal lawyer. I was always interested. You know, you watch TV programs, you read books, and you were interested, but I never thought I was going to be a criminal lawyer. And not many people know this, but when I first returned to Singapore from the UK, my initial plans was to do corporate law.
Corporate law?
Yes, and I applied to Kata Wong, as it was then, and applied to do pupillage in the corporate department. The interview lasted not more than 5 minutes. The then managing partner of the firm just looked at me, shook his head and said, "I'm sorry, Shashi, you will never ever be a corporate lawyer."
Oh my goodness.
It devastated me. I thought, my God, all my life I thought I'll be a corporate lawyer. I didn't even have a white shirt. You know? I came to the interview in a blue shirt. I had pinstripe shirts. Then he said, why didn't you try litigation? Because, a corporate lawyer needs to be quite careful. You got to dot all your I's, cross your T's, and, you got to be quite precise.
Yes.
He said, you seem to be more of a guy who like things on your feet and maybe cuts a few corners. He was trying to be helpful, but he wasn't trying to, make me feel good. I felt quite bad about it. I went home. I spoke to my father and I said, I'm going to try another firm. And I had interviews with other firms at the time, and I said, I don't do litigation. I want to dress up nicely, wear my pinstripe shirts.
Yes.
But my father said, why didn't you give it a try? I mean, who knows, you might like it. So I started doing litigation in Kata Wong. I was, as a pupil, I was actually doing shipping litigation. I was in the shipping team, and it was an eye-opener. I had made lots of friends in the shipping. Many of them are all senior partners in shipping firms in Singapore. But they taught me a lot. They taught me about the cut and thrust of litigation. Shipping at that time was really a boys' club. Hardly any women in shipping. It was a boys' club. It was good. We worked hard. We partied hard, and it kind of helped me to be confident about going to court. Now, having said that, when I was in England, I did a mini pupillage at a criminal set. And this was an excellent criminal set. It was headed by Michael Sherrod QC. At that time, one of the most well-known white-collar crime QCs in the UK. And he used to come down to Singapore to do some cases, including some death penalty cases. I was fortunate enough to have been introduced to him by Mr. San Singh, another very senior counsel in Singapore. And Mr. Singh introduced me to Michael Sherrod, I got to know him personally, and he invited me to his set of chambers. So I did a stint with him. It was a interesting stint. It was a very Jewish set of chambers. So they themselves were a minority set within the bar. And I was the only Indian chap. So he always called me the minority within the minorities.
Oh, wow. The only Indian chap amongst
Yeah.
a group of
But
Jewish lawyers.
It was fun, and I learned a lot following Michael Sherratt. But even then, I didn't think I'll be a criminal lawyer. I think it was a really good stint. I saw how he prepared for cases, how he treated the members in his set, and he taught me a lot. But I still thought, it's a good stint. I'll be a corporate lawyer, but that didn't happen. So I did 6 months of shipping, and
In Katawong.
In Katawong, I had a good set of people around me. They taught me a lot. They were tough. Trust me. I had 2 shipping partners whose names I won't mention, but they know who they are. But they gave me a hard time. I mean, every day as a pupil, I'll come to the pupils' set of in the office. I'll just wait for the phone call because one of the senior partner secretaries will be calling me in for a scolding.
Oh, gosh.
And I will get almost every single day. There's not a single day that went by that I didn't get a scolding. And they were very different styles. One of them would give me a rollicking. He'll shout, scream at me, throw things at me. Nothing you can do nowadays.
Yes,
In those days, this was the accepted thing. But he'd really give me a hard time. The other one would be very measured. He'd call me in, and he'd be extremely sarcastic, saying that, are you sure you don't have a low IQ problem?
Oh,
Because I
dear.
look at these submissions, they're terrible. Maybe we should send you to IMH
Oh, my goodness.
for a few weeks.
So was it like a rite of passage for many lawyers back then?
Now, when I meet those senior partners, they say, we always knew you were going to be okay. This is our way of training you. At that time,
I see.
it was horrible. I mean, I used to go back and say, why am I doing this? I could have been comfortable as a corporate lawyer.
Yes,
I'm getting
yes.
scolding every day,
Yes.
for something or the other. But anyway.
So after the 6 months of shipping litigation,
Ordinarily, I thought, okay, I'll join the shipping team.
Yes.
The shipping. And I really enjoyed my time because my seniors, some of them were 2 or 3 years my senior, but they looked after me, and I'm still in touch with all of them. They're all in large firms doing shipping now, but they helped me, they guided me. But I thought that was a natural thing. Then we had a very interesting development in the firm. We had a very senior partner in the firm called Rajendran, who was elevated to the Supreme Court bench. And he used to dabble in a few files, criminal law here and there. And he left suddenly to take up his position in the High Court. And there were about 15, 20 files that he left. And nobody was dealing with it. The managing partner was trying to figure out, what do we do with these files? Because nobody does crime in Katawong. Then he saw on my CV that I had this
you had the mini pupillage.
mini pupillage in London with Michael
That's
Sherratt.
right.
And he calls me and says, can you look after these files for a while? I said, look, I want to do corporate. I'm now in shipping. I don't know. I haven't practiced criminal law in Singapore. He says, I'm sure you can manage it. So he gave me those files. And it was strange because I had no partner to go to. There was no senior, and nobody did criminal
And you
law.
were newly qualified back then.
I was called 1 month
1 month.
and I did my first trial.
Oh, wow.
So really I was thrown in the deep end.
Goodness, yes.
But then you see another thing happening because I had nobody in my own firm to help me. But they were obviously confident enough, or they didn't care. They just threw me in. I did my first few trials, and what I then saw was the senior members of the criminal bar. They saw me, who's this unknown young man, never heard of him. He's doing his own trials. Obviously, I was floundering here and there. They came to my help. People like Palakrishnan, people like Subhash. Sanseng, of course, I had been working with him. He knew me. Leo Fernando, whose son Peter is a good friend of
Yes,
mine.
yes.
These were the senior members of the bar, the people who sat at the
Yes.
famous round table.
How did they come to your help? So they saw you
So
in court.
they started noticing me as, and obviously I was unknown, but I was doing cases, and I was lucky enough to get some pretty high profile cases, which is rare to come for someone who's unknown to the bar. So I remember defending this lady who was an actress on TV. There was a series called Under One Roof.
Yes, under one roof.
So there was an actress who had been caught for shoplifting.
Right.
Not a big case, quite a minor case, and she could have gone to whoever, but she had a friend who knew me, says, can you defend her? And I said, yes, it's a shoplifting case.
And this was when you were 3
3
years?
months. I was
3 months
I was
PQE,
I was
my
called
goodness.
for 3
3
months.
months PQE, okay.
I did, and we did a trial. It was interesting, and something that shocked me because suddenly, because she was an actress, there was so much scrutiny in the case. I know I'll get off a taxi at the state courts and we'll be surrounded by cameras and videographers and
Wow.
journalists, and I'm new.
You were newly qualified.
It was bewildering to
Yes.
just deal with that.
And were you the only lawyer on this case?
I had a colleague who was helping me, but he was 2 months after me, so he was like a first year.
Yeah.
So two of us, we went in. And it's interesting because she was actually really funny, Obviously, she was worried about the case, but she's generally a very funny person. And she would laugh and joke about, like we'll climb up the stairs to the state court.
Yes.
She's quite large.
Right.
And she would say, Shashi, help me, I can't climb up the stairs. And she'll make these side jokes, and it kind of lightened the atmosphere.
Yes.
So we went in for that trial, and suddenly there was a bit more attention. Who's this young man who was doing this? It wasn't a particularly difficult trial, but because of the personalities involved. Then I noticed one day when I was in the middle of the trial, I turned around and I looked, and there's the gallery behind. Many of the senior criminal lawyers were there. They were watching what's happening in this trial.
Because this is a high-profile case.
They weren't watching me. They were watching the trial,
Yes.
And I remember this was quite a simple case. It was theft. And after lunch, I knew all these senior lawyers, but of course I didn't dare speak to them because, I'm a first yearer, they are senior guys. But just after lunch, Mr. Balakrishnan, he stepped into the courtroom before the trial started. He gave me 2 cases. He says, young man, read this. This will be helpful for you. And he doesn't know me. I don't know him. He just, obviously during the lunch break, he went up to the sub-court library, plucked out these 2 cases, and he came and gave it to me to help me. And I was very touched because he's Mr. Balakrishnan, very senior. I'm nobody.
Back then.
But I was very touched by that small act of kindness, and that helped because I used those submissions, and we got a good result for that case. That was the first thing I realized, that the senior members of the criminal bar were, because the criminal bar is different. We are not against each other. It's usually us against the state, so the bar tends to be much closer linked, and they do help each other. That's the first experience, Mr. Balakrishnan coming down, and he didn't have to. I mean, I could have won or lost the case. It didn't really bother him, but he saw that I needed help, and he came to help me. So I'm very grateful. I'll always be grateful for that very first act of kindness. But just a few months after that, I was acting for another young man who was a butcher.
Okay.
And he was charged for quite a serious offense. And I had gone into the courtroom, and the judge in that case, again, I won't mention the judge's name, but I'm sure he knows. He was quite tough with me. He was very stern, and and he, when my client was in the witness box, they were reading the charges to him, and then he was saying to me and making comments and said, "Why are we wasting time in this case? Should this case go for trial?" So then he made a comment which I found very unpleasant, and it chilled me to the bone. He said, Mr. Nathan, when, not if, when I convict your client, please remind him that he's facing a long jail term. And I was surprised that, he hasn't even heard the evidence. He's, basically he was bullying me.
Yes.
He knew I was a very young lawyer. I didn't have the experience. And he wanted to frighten me. And I was frightened because when a judge says when I convict, that means he's already decided to convict. I went down, I remember going to the bar room, and I was thinking what I do. The judge seems to have already decided, feeling a bit sorry for myself. Then a whole group of senior lawyers, including Mr. Balakrishnan, there was a Mr. Mark, there was Leo Fernando. They all came to me and said, young man, what's happening? Then I said, so I told them, this is what happened. I went to court. The judge said, don't worry. You go and you just fight your case. Do your best. So I went up, and slowly, it's a small court, the mezzanine courts. They all came up, 5, 6 of the senior criminal lawyers, they sat at the back. The judge came out, and he got surprised to see all the senior lawyers. Then he said, why are all these people here? Are you putting pressure on me? He panicked.
I see.
And this is a public gallery we can watch. We went through the trial and he acquitted my client,
Wow.
you know. So the reason I'm sharing this story is, and which is why me and the other senior lawyers now, we do the same thing. All these senior criminal lawyers helped me when I was young and wet behind the ears, and I needed their help.
Yeah.
They were there. They gave me confidence. I could turn around. I knew they were backing me, which is what we do now.
So paying it forward.
Yeah. So so many of criminal lawyers,
Amazing.
People like Ramesh Tiwari, Suresh Damodra, Wendell Wong, all of us, we have an open communication. Any one of them needs help for any trial, any appeal,
Yes.
they can contact us directly
Amazing.
because other people did the same for us.
Yes. So, in a way, how your journey into becoming the criminal lawyer that you are today, it started as an accidental thing. You didn't exactly seek it out.
Yeah.
Once you started, you realized that it was really something that you.
It's a series of
onto.
things. I mean, one, I got the fortune to get Justice
Yes.
Rajendran's files. Two, the firm encouraged me, although they didn't really give me someone to help. But then the bar helped.
The
bar became my mentor. You know,
Yes.
not one person, but all of them
Many people.
helped me. And, without their help and encouragement,
Yep.
I think I would have given up because, I was going to this fresh, new, didn't have and then I began to love it. Obviously, if you start winning a few things, you
Course.
feel you can do
Yes.
it. Of course,
Yes.
I lost also, but soon I felt there was a fit.
Yes.
I think it fit with me.
And then you never did any corporate law shipping litigation after that. It was just full on criminal law.
I didn't do corporate anymore, fortunately for the corporate world. And I didn't do any shipping anymore. But what I tend to do, because I think I enjoy advocacy. So while I would say the mainstay of my work is today white collar and blue collar criminal litigation, I will from time to time do civil advocacy for some cases. Usually a law firm may want someone to just do the counsel work. So I have done cases like contested probates, some commercial litigation matters. I don't do that many, maybe one or two a year. And I want to keep on doing that because it keeps me interested in the other aspects of litigation. While criminal law is the main thing I'm interested in, I am interested in other areas of litigation. And as counsel, I can just concentrate on the advocacy instead of worrying about the preparation. For commercial and civil litigation, the prep work, the pre-trial work is immense.
Yes, it's immense.
So once in a while, if I get the opportunity and law firms will approach me to just do the advocacy for a trial and appeal, I will do that because I think that's something I'm quite happy to do.
Yes. Okay. So many of us out there grew up watching a lot of legal TV dramas. And actually what you do as a criminal defense lawyer is the stuff of what we see on TV.
Some of it, yeah.
Some of it, the
Yeah.
practice, law and order, maybe even Suits to a certain extent.
We don't dance in the courtroom, unfortunately.
You don't dance in the courtroom, yes.
Yeah.
But
Or we try to, but we don't have the steps.
Yes, yeah. So I'm sure you get this question a lot. It's basically, how do you reconcile with yourself when you know maybe for a fact that the person you're representing, your client, is in fact guilty of a very serious crime? How do you
Well,
deal
yeah,
with
that question is asked of me
many times, I'm sure.
almost at every dinner party I go to. But actually the answer is very simple. And I'm sure most lawyers will tell you the same thing. The basic precept is anyone deserves to be defended. Okay, you can be the most reprehensible criminal. You've done so many terrible things, but for due process, for proper system of justice to work, everyone needs to be represented. Now, sometimes I've done cases where a person is charged with a rape, for example. Some of my close friends, females, say, Shashi, how can you defend him? He's a rapist, he's terrible. And my first answer to them is, look, you guys are looking at it without knowing all the facts. And if this happened to, say, your brother, your uncle, your father, some male member of you, I can promise you want him to have some defense. You may not agree with what he did. You may not even understand what he did. But you want him to have a fair shot at a defense. Now, a defense doesn't mean we'll get him off completely. A defense can be mitigating. It can show another set of facts to the court, can make the court calibrate what is the right type of sentence for the facts in this case. So if he didn't have that, you would be going in blind. And, the prosecution also may also be dealing with the facts that they have in their possession. So I think my way of dealing with it is that everyone and anyone who has committed an offense or is alleged to have committed an offense deserves to have counsel and a fair hearing. Ultimately, you must have faith in our system. And, if I put it another way, I rather have defended 10 people and 9 of them are guilty, but 1 of them is innocent. And I defend all 10 of them, I get that 1 person who's innocent off. Then the other way around, 10 innocent people, 1 person is guilty. So as long as 1 person is innocent out of 10, why are we depriving all 10 of a defense? Because we don't know.
Yes, we don't know.
So I think you must have faith in the system. And I think we have an excellent system in Singapore. I know people are quick to criticize the way things are done and how people are sentenced. But I've done this for not 30 years. I'm not that old. 20 over years.
20 over years.
Yeah. I feel we have an excellent criminal justice system. It is a system not just of defense lawyers. It's also the prosecution. It's also the bench. And not every case works out the way we want it. But by and large, the majority of cases, when the 3 cogs of the wheel work together, justice is served. So I'm quite happy to defend people who, on the face of it, look like their society doesn't accept what they've done. But we have, as lawyers, we have to look at it from an objective level and a subjective level. If I can present a defense that either calibrates his conduct or explains his conduct, I've already done something for him, and everyone deserves at least that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Very heartening to hear that. So this ties in very nicely into, one of the most well-read interviews about you with Rise Media, where you shared more about your first ever murder case back in 1994. And in the interview, you shared about how you had sleepless nights back then.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with that? And do you still have sleepless nights now? Does it get easier?
Now I have sleepless nights for other reasons, but not for my cases. Okay, 2 things. That case was the first murder case I was involved in. I was a second-year lawyer. I just become a second-year lawyer.
My goodness.
And I was the assisting counsel for that case. The case is Tong Bai Naklangdon. It's a reported case. But those days, the law reports don't go into the depth and detail that they do now, but it's still an interesting read. I still feel today, 25, 26 years after that case is over, I still feel my client is innocent. So, or at least I feel that, there wasn't enough to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he had intended to kill the victim. So, something about that case is still very uneasy in me. I respect the decision, both at the High Court and the Court of Appeal. So it's done and dusted. He's hung, so there's nothing I can do. But one of the things I remember is I had gone to see him just before his execution. And must remember I was still a newbie. And I had used the Thai interpreter to speak to him. But he's not even from Bangkok. He's from Udon Thani. It's a province in the north. This is like maybe 2 weeks before he was going to execute. He asked me to send some information to his wife. He had a wife and a young son in his village. And he was young. He was 23. And he kept saying to the interpreter, I know I'm going to die. I know there's nothing I can do. But I want you to know I did not do it. So for me, if you're going to, if you know there's no hope, why keep up the pretense? You can just say I did. But even at that point, 2 weeks before it's being executed for me, I didn't do it. So it left me with a heavy feeling. And the thing is, the sleepless nights is things like, could I have done a better job? Have I missed out anything? Is it my fault he's hanging? All those things are going through my mind. So I suppose at that time, when I was a very young lawyer, it affected me quite badly. I think when it happened today, I think it would still affect me. Maybe not as much. But I share this with my team of lawyers. I said, the day you deal with a case, especially a case where there's some emotion involved, and you don't get affected, it's nothing to you, then I think maybe you should think about whether it's time to walk away. Because to be a good criminal lawyer, you need to empathize with your client. You need to understand his mindset, why things are happening. You need to also understand where he's gone wrong. The day you are numb to this, The day you feel, just another case, just move on to another case. So what if he hangs? Please walk away. Because if you feel that way, you're not doing yourself or your client any justice. The day you feel numb, walk away. Do something else. Go and sell ice cream. Go and do something else.
I agree. The moment you become indifferent, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so a little known fact about me that not many people know about, but you know that I used to be a criminal lawyer,
Yes.
but on the prosecution side.
Yes.
And I saw personally the kind of emotional toll it takes on everyone. Obviously, the accused person, but there is a mom, there is a dad, a grandma, wife, husband in the courtroom. And back then when I was a very junior prosecutor, I couldn't take it because the stakes are very high.
Yeah.
Someone's life is, whether it's a life or I didn't do any capital cases, but someone's going away for
It's
a
still
long
affecting
time.
their lives.
It still affects. And my question actually to you, Shashi, is, after such a big case, whether it's a murder or, any big case, you say that maybe you don't have as many sleepless nights now, it doesn't affect you so much. But how do you recover from it? And then what then drives you to take on the next case and the next case and the next case? Because, it does take a toll. I mean, I was only a prosecutor for a much shorter period of time, but personally, I just knew that wasn't for me. So for you to have done it, I'm sorry, I rounded it up to 30 years, 20 plus years. So just wondering, how do you do it?
I think it's a combination of a few things. One, you need to have an interest in your job. I consider myself extremely fortunate that I don't really see this as a job. I think I get to meet people, I get to deal with situations that most people don't get to. It's almost like I'm playing a role-playing game every day, but every day it's a new game. Every day it's a new group of people, new set of circumstances. And I know this is going to sound a bit silly, but I actually am excited to go to work every day, even after 20-something years.
So it doesn't feel like work?
It doesn't feel like work. It helps that I have a extremely good team. My team, we have 5 of us now. It's they know their stuff. They have similar feelings about how we want to run our practice. We have a lot of pride in how we built up the name of our practice. So that energizes me also. It's not just me, it's our team, So, and I suppose we all recharge in different ways, People who know me know that I'm quite social.
You are definitely very social.
So
you're very well known.
Before all these measures for lockdowns and all that, I used to have dinner parties. I like socializing. I think that helps because I think I'm the sort of person that I'm a bit of an extrovert. People energize me, so I feed off other people's energy. Of course, nowadays we can't meet too many people so often. But I think I also read a lot.
Yes.
I think reading for me, I try to read at least an hour a day of something that I'm interested in. It's usually not law, it's something else completely. I find that settles me down a lot.
To recover from your daily...
And even recovery, I think it's the way cases are fixed now. Sometimes the moment you finish a case, the last few months I had trials almost every week for the last 3 or 4 months. And, I was always looking for a 3 or 4 day gap where I don't have a trial, but... I think the judges also, we go for pre-trial conferences and I tell the judge, you can see my diary. Can you give me a break? Just a few days. Don't let me finish a trial on Friday and then start a new trial on Monday, And the judges are nice. They understand. If they know you've got a heavy diary, they try and make some adjustments. Even if they let me start on a Tuesday, I have 1 extra day in my weekend to recharge. Small things like that I'm happy with those small rewards, So, I think everyone... recharges in different ways. But I think for me it's people, people around me.
And you mentioned you have a very good, strong team.
Yes.
In a market where lawyers come and go, law firms are constantly dealing with high turnover rate. You have a very strong, close-knit team. And in fact, some of them have been with you for more than 10 years, right? What's your secret to retaining good talent what do you do differently? How do you motivate your staff? Because I do see photos on social media where you have regular meals with your team. And I know one of them, Tanya, has been with you for many years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of two things. And you need a bit of luck to get good people in your team. And also, I think what we try and foster in the team is we spend a lot of hours in the office or working on our cases. So your team is like your work family. I know it's a modern term people use a bit quite loosely, but I think my team is actually very closely knit. I mean, nowadays we can't meet in groups of 5, but 2 of them will go for lunch together, another 2 will go for lunch together. So they talk, they share their personal lives, they're quite close. And although there are 5 of us, on any different matter, we could be working in teams of 2 or teams of 3 on different matters. So everyone gets a chance to work with everyone. The thing that is important is at least, actually all of them, all 4 of them either interned or did training contracts with us. So it's not someone I've just hired externally. All of them, we've had some contact with them when they were still
grew
students.
Organically.
Yeah.
In your
So
team.
many of the 2 youngest ones, for example, both interned with us when they were still in university. So they got to meet the older members of the team. And usually when I'm hiring, I would discuss with, say, Tanya or Jeremy, my more senior guys, what do you think? Should we hire this? Do you think they'll fit? And the fit is not just whether they are academically inclined to do our kind of work, but whether or not there's a social fit, the style of work, would they be able to fit in? So we take all this into play. And I see many other law firms or teams where the team changes every few years. We managed to keep the team more or less together for many years. I think that's it. We when they come to work, they're also not coming to work. It's their work family. There's a strong social connect within the team. And they all know, many of the things I've discussed today with you, we discuss it, what motivates us, how we deal with clients, what to look out for in a situation, how we deal with the courts, with the prosecutors. I hope we've all got that same blend of thinking of how we want to do our practice. And that's what's kept the team together.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in your firm with us, Kata Wong, I believe the global managing partner is female.
Yes.
Tanya is also a female.
Yes.
And I think we talked about this earlier today about how there are not that many female criminal lawyers. And in fact, I mentioned this about how a lot of criminal lawyers tend to be male. And I remember walking into the lounge in the courtroom when I was a young lawyer, I think pupil even, and I was quite shocked because most of them were men.
Yes.
And everyone's like, bro.
Yeah.
I kind of felt out of place. This was
Yeah.
like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts? Because it seems like Withers is doing something right. There are many female partners.
Yeah.
And, clearly you are a very big advocate for diversity.
We're huge advocates for diversity. I mean, as I said, in my firm, not just in Singapore, but in London, in New York, in all our offices, there's a huge number of women who, not just associates, but partners as well.
Yes.
And we felt, and it's something I strongly believe in, it doesn't make a difference. For me, it doesn't make a difference whether you're male or female, whatever race, nationality, religion, that doesn't make a lawyer.
Yes.
That just gives us a diversity of backgrounds and experience to call on. So the firm has been a strong advocate. We also want to make sure that female lawyers never get disadvantaged. One of the things I noticed, and it happens in most firms, women who have families, they always feel they have to sacrifice a few years of experience. When they come back, there's a platform to get up to again. So it's always been difficult. So we have tried our best to, I don't think we can eradicate it, but minimize the disadvantage, because we feel women should have families. Women
Yes.
should go and have children, but they shouldn't be disadvantaged for it,
How do you minimize that disadvantage? So when someone's coming back from maternity leave, for instance, I mean, I'm a working mom of 2, and I'm no longer in practice, clearly.
Yeah.
But I do have friends in practice where it's true, they come back from practice and they feel they have to play catch up with their
Yeah.
male counterparts.
sure.
And the male counterparts will feel it's unfair if they don't have to play catch up because they've been, carrying the load for them as well.
I think it works
It's a
two
delicate
ways.
balance, right?
I think it works 2 ways. From the firm's point of view, if the person, male or female, is a talent, has got certain skill sets which we need. We need to look after that person. We need to cultivate those skill sets. And, I don't want to, even if I've got a young female lawyer who's worked for me for years, and then she goes off and has her family, why should I lose her?
Yeah.
I want to keep her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And I don't want her to think just because she's a mother, she's not as competent as she used to be. So we've got to get rid of that mindset. So that's from the firm's point of view. And I think our firm, and I'm sure many other firms are doing that now. But from the lawyer herself, there has to be a similar mindset.
True.
So it has to
Very
work
true.
both ways. So I remember when Tanya was on both her maternity breaks, what she did, and which I'm grateful for. Obviously, she went off for maternity, and I think it's 4 months. But my rule, I think we gave her 5 or 6 months extra just to keep on spending time with the kids, because it's not easy
very
to
kind.
just drop and
Yes,
come back.
it's not easy.
But what she did on her part, which I thought helped us, she said, look, okay, I'll continue on maternity leave, but let me review all the drafts. So I'm at home. So my juniors will be preparing submissions, mitigations, appeal documents. And, they would send it off to her. So she's on maternity, I didn't even ask her to do it. She said, let me see the draft. I want to get back into the swing of it.
This was towards the end of her maternity
Her
leave.
extra months of maternity.
Right,
She said, look, I don't want to just stay home. I know I'm busy with the kids and all that, but let me get into the swing of it. I want to get back into the feel of practice. I said, okay, if you're okay with it, you go through the drafts at home. So this is the unofficial maternity leave anyway. But she was happy to do it. I think it achieved 2 things. One, it got her back into the way of thinking like a lawyer. What do I look out for in these drafts? What are we trying to submit to court? And then it also helped her, because at that time I had two of the younger ones had just come on, and one of them hadn't even met her yet. But because of this interaction, they got to know her and they got to work with her. She got to work with the younger ones. So when she eventually came back to the office, it was seamless.
She was like
She
an
just
easy transition.
Got back into the swing of things. I think
That's very
that helped. So
interesting.
I think for this to work, the law firm must have the correct mindset. But I think the lawyer herself, or himself, I suppose, in a different situation, needs to want it to work and needs to know that, okay, I have to make certain adjustments for this to work, And if you can find that balance, I don't see why anyone should be disadvantaged.
Agree.
Yeah.
In fact, too many female lawyers, you know what I do for a living, legal recruitment.
Yeah.
Too many female lawyers call it quits too early from practice, and it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. I'm going to have a family, I'm going to go in-house.
Yeah.
And actually, many of them would have stayed on in practice if there were other options to manage different competing challenges.
And I think law firms are also learning from this, But I, like I said, it's 2 sides. I do think, and I know some very good female litigators, for example, who decided to go in-house after starting a family. Personally, I mean, obviously they have their own choices and there are pros and cons, there are better work hours and all that. But many of them were excellent. And I thought they were selling themselves short because they could have come back, but with some adjustments, and the adjustments have to work both ways, from the firm and the lawyer.
How about criminal lawyers? So we were talking about how many criminal lawyers tend to be male
And Indian.
and Indian. Yes, thank you. So, and you were saying also clients tend to think that maybe a male Indian lawyer might do a better job of defending them. I mean, there's a mindset, of course.
It is a mindset, and it doesn't really bear out, I think. I mean, I won't argue. To be fair, I've benefited from that stereotype, obviously.
Clearly.
But I don't think that's fair.
Yes.
I think there are many good female criminal lawyers who are excellent, who are better than some of the male lawyers I see out there. You don't have to be male. You don't have to be Indian to be a criminal lawyer. There's a large number of Indians who are criminal lawyers. Not all of them are good. Some of them are excellent, of course.
Yes, of course.
But there are good criminal lawyers from any gender, any race. The issue, I don't think, is the lawyer's issue, because I, for example, have made it very clear that I am open to and I want to hire female criminal lawyers in my team. At the moment, I have 3. Out of the 5 of us, 3 of them are female,
Wow, okay.
So
more than half of your team.
more than half my team is female.
Yes.
So, but I don't think there's any issue at all. They are excellent lawyers. Their law is good. Their preparation is good. Their advocacy is good. So I made that call many years ago that I'm not going to follow this male Indian stereotype.
So what do you think can be done? It's more of the public
it's a client
perception.
thing.
It's a client thing.
If you ask any lawyer whether they believe in it, they'll probably say no. They know. You can look around. There are excellent female lawyers who do good criminal work. Many of the excellent prosecutors at Chambers are female.
Yes, many.
And in practice, there's Tanya, of course, who's excellent. My two younger lawyers, there's Diana Nyam from Kua Wu. I think she's excellent. There's this lady called Sadhana Rai, who I think is one of the very promising female criminal lawyers, and they're excellent. They're better than many of the male lawyers I see. So how do we change it? It's a mindset. A typical Singaporean client, if they get in trouble for a criminal law problem, the white collar matters maybe not so bad. Cheating, corruption, they look for large firms with white collar practice, and we do that all the time. When I have a corruption matter or insider trading matter, and I introduce one of my female partners or female colleagues, clients have no problem. When it's the blue collar, it's a murder, it's a rape. Oh no, actually, I want, sir, can you do this for me?
I want Shashi to defend me.
Yeah, so education. Maybe this podcast hopefully will help educate some people and help people understand the quality of your lawyer is not based on his or her gender or background. It's whether or not that person is willing to fight for you and do her best or his best in presenting your case to the courts. And that can come from anyone.
Very well said. What is one piece of advice you would give to a law student or a junior lawyer contemplating a career in criminal law? Before they decide to maybe switch, maybe from corporate, maybe it's a corporate lawyer thinking of doing criminal law, very inspired after listening to you. What's one piece of advice you would give to them before they make that leap?
I think one interesting thing one should do, and I see that in my young team, go and do internships. And not just criminal law, any area of law you want to do, whether you want to do family law, criminal law, you want to do corporate, you want to do IP. Be clever about it. Go and find out, do your research, find out which firms, which lawyers do which areas of law, apply for internships. I think if you're at university and you try out these internships, you get a better sense. The nature of the work, the people who are doing this work, what kind of lifestyle this work will give you, whether you will fit. Sometimes, for example, if I think back, and my managing partner at that time was probably right, had I turned out to be a corporate lawyer, I probably won't be the same person I am today. I may not even be that good at it. You think you're good at something, but, when you actually practice it, it's completely different. So I have no regrets. Whatever happened. But, I could have been wearing a nicer suit if I was a corporate lawyer. But
that ties in very nicely to my next question. So if you have a chance to do a do-over, is there anything you would do differently in your career? I know you say no regrets. Like for me, I have no regrets about my career, but there are certain things surely you might have wanted to do differently.
I was thinking about this. I feel everything that I've done, the good things, the mistakes, I've made so many mistakes, mistakes in my cases, mistakes in the people I deal with, wrong decisions. Do I regret some of them? Yes. Would I want it to be different? Probably not, because I think the mistakes I've made, the errors I've done, even judgment calls I made, have made me what I am today. I think you are kind of molded by the mistakes you've made. So in that sense, I know it's easy to say, but I don't think I would change anything. Perhaps one thing, if not now, but maybe when I was in my late 20s, and nothing to do with law, but I think if I could change something, I would want to spend a bit more time with my family, my parents, who I was very close to. Me, my brother, and my parents were very close, but in my 20s, I was out. We worked hard. But then we'll be out every night.
Party hard.
Yeah, so, I don't regret it,
yes.
But I suppose I could have reduced a bit of it and spent more time with the family. I think a lot of people take family time for granted now. I see it amongst younger lawyers in my firm. They're very hardworking, but, these are not the days where partners to keep track of how long the lawyers work. I mean, I think there must be a right balance. I think family life, family time is important. I don't really regret it, but I could have done a little bit better. I should have done better. So I would ask lawyers to think about that.
Yes.
That's the right balance.
I love that, actually. That's exactly what a lot of us need to
We
listen to.
take it for granted
Yes, we
because
take
we
it
are
for
so.
granted. We think they're always going to be there.
There'll always be time,
yeah.
but there's never the right time to make that decision. So
Yes.
by the time you decide, I've got time now, it might be too late.
So how do you see the legal market evolving? Because you're in criminal law where it's almost recession-proof, if I may
Yeah.
say, right? Whereas, I mean, you're the head of disputes of Withers Carter Wong,
Yeah.
international firm. Do you see any threats to the legal industry? Is there anything on your mind that you think, the younger generation of lawyers, they need to be aware of?
I think it's understanding how our markets are driven. I mean, I look after the other litigation teams in the Singapore and APAC offices, and we are concerned about other things like, how do we keep competitive with the other large litigation firms? What type of work are we trying to get? Is AI going to influence the way we work? I think lawyers have to be constantly evolving. Sometimes some of the older partners who don't want to use technology, they will be left behind. Let's make it very clear. If you don't embrace technology, you will be left behind because the world is moving on without you. So, fortunately, most people, especially younger lawyers, have no problem with technology. There are lots of new developments in litigation. I mean, over the last 5-10 years, litigation funding has come into play.
Yeah, litigation funding.
It's huge in
Right.
the UK and the US. It's starting to make a presence felt in Singapore. I think litigation funding, while it may not be so apparent right now, in due course, I think will open up the battlefield because persons or corporations or entities who perhaps were thinking twice about going to certain types of litigation now know that, there is a way.
Okay, so now that we've heard from Shashi the lawyer and we're about to wrap up the podcast, let's get personal and ask some fun questions. So
Sure.
very quick fun questions. What's your favorite drink, Shashi?
Okay, I have a lot of favorite drinks. I love whiskey.
Yes.
And I collect whiskey. I drink
Okay.
whiskey.
How about comfort food? What's your favorite comfort food?
Oh my God, it's everything, I suppose. There's different things, I think the food is important, but I think the company you have the food with is equally important. I had a friend who sent over a biryani last week to my home, and this is something that people like queuing up in the thousands to get, and the guy makes only like 30 or 40 packets.
I want to get my hands
Yeah.
on that. How about your favorite movie or TV show or book? You shared that you're a big reader.
Yeah, I've got lots of books.
What's
that
one
I-
book you recommend me reading and the listeners out there?
It's a book I keep rereading again and again. It's
Yes.
a series of books. So P.G. Wodehouse wrote
Yes.
a series of books called Jeeves at Worcester.
Oh, okay.
It's set in turn of the century London. It's about a rich young man and his butler Jeeves,
Yes, yes.
and they made it into films. They made it into podcasts and series. So I've got the whole collection. I've been reading it for years and years, and every now and again I go back to a volume and just read it because
Excellent.
it gives me it's fun because it transports you to a different time and place. But for a movie, I have one movie that everyone, my close friends knows is my favorite movie of all time. I even have a gold DVD of this movie.
Wow, what's this movie?
So it's a movie called High Noon.
High Noon.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it
a Western.
Cowboy,
It's,
right?
Yeah, it's a Western, but it's more than that. I mean, you look at it looks like a
Yes.
cowboy movie. But it is an amazing movie. There are stories within the story in the movie, and there are a lot of references to clocks and time and how time moves very quickly. I highly commend it to you to
Okay,
read.
I will.
I will say one more thing from that movie, which I use as a guide for me for the rest of my life, including practicing criminal law. In the movie, very quickly, there's a sheriff who retires and is supposed to move off to a new town with his newly married wife. But someone who is put in jail is coming to kill him. So he could move on with his life and be happy and nothing to worry about. But he knew these people were coming to the town and they would kill a lot of people. So he's torn between his duty. Do I be happy or do I do the right thing and defend my wife? And his wife is very upset. She's going on the next train to leave to the next town. So he has to decide my own happiness or do I do the right thing?
Gosh,
and the movie shows that throughout.
Oh,
And ultimately, he does the right thing
see.
and gets to go with his wife.
Spoiler alert.
No. It's the movie was made in 1956.
I see 1956.
Yeah,
No,
so
I'm
it's a
kidding.
very old movie. But please watch it.
Yes,
Even if
I
you know
will.
the story,
Yeah.
it's a very compelling watch.
I will. Yeah, sounds very exciting. Okay, if you can sum up in one sentence, what's your motto in life? What's Shashi
I have a
Nandan's
word,
motto?
not a sentence.
One word.
I have a
Okay.
word. Unfortunately, the word needs a bit of explanation.
Right,
So
sure.
if you bear with me.
Of course.
So I have one word which I think is a motto for me.
Yes.
It's a Malay word, and the word is cukup.
Cukup. Enough.
That's what most people correctly say. And the word cukup in Malay means enough. But it was a word that was shared with me by a friend who I met when I was doing national service a very long time ago. And he explained to me, cukup is enough. You're right. But actually, it's something that doesn't translate to most other languages. There's another meaning to cukup. When someone says they're cukup, it's not just enough. It's enough, I'm content.
Content. I
Yeah.
see.
So that flavor of contentment is not translated when you try to translate cukup into English or any other language. But I always found that to be a very good motto and guide for me because, we always want to get the nicest things, nice car, nice watch, all those very well and good, but I think at some point, if you're lucky enough, fortunate enough to have a decent life, good friends around you, cukup.
Cukup. Yes.
You should be cukup.
Yes.
But
because there's
we've
always someone more handsome,
always
richer,
yeah,
faster.
probably more people. There's always someone who has something better than you.
Yes, true.
And if you keep on searching, you may get something in a few months, but then you're going to be wanting the next thing.
True.
So I think the secret to, I don't know whether it's a secret to happiness, but certainly my secret to trying to be happy most of the time is to be cukup.
So eloquently put. Okay, last question. What's one question I didn't ask you today that you wish I did?
Wow.
This is not scripted.
Yeah,
so
I
I'm
know, so
catching
I'm-
Shashi off
I'm trying to
guard.
see what you haven't asked me. You seem to have covered quite a lot of things. Music? Did you ask me about music?
No, I did not ask you
didn't.
about music.
So I have a varied genre of music that I like. But I probably have an old soul in a older body. But I really like music from the 50s and 60s, Perry Como, Nat King Cole.
Yes. So thank you so much, Shashi,
No,
for
no,
your
no,
time.
thank you for having me.
Really, really appreciate you
Yeah.
coming onto the show. And if you would like to get in touch with Shashi, please check out the notes in the episode and all the wonderful people that Shashi has made reference to. We will also include their contact details, their LinkedIn profiles in our notes. So if you'd like to have updates on more episodes of After the Bar, just follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for listening. Join us next time and find out what could be in store for us after the bar.